In 2018, a crack YouTube unit was sent to social media prison by an algorithm for the crime they didn't commit. These producers promptly escaped from maximum security social media stockade to the internet underground. Today, still wanted by social media, they survive as producers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the Smash team.
So there's way too much stuff to cover today because I don't know if you read the title of the video, but there's a lot of stuff to cover. We got sunspots, including sunspot 2742, which forms right here and then instantly dissipates, and sunspot 2743, which is still a thing. So here's the 171 angstrom view, and we're going to actually give you a moment here to add people. So please tell your friends and foes. We'll give you at least a minute of lead time, as there are a lot of, shall we say, interesting stories to cover. 1 minute lead time, folks. Be right back. All right, so I apologize for the double intro, but considering how much stuff there is to cover, I had to be well prepped today, shall we say. Anyway, we see sunspots. So significant difference in sunspot number there. Let's look at the close-up here in 304 angstroms, because we also see a large filament rising in the east. So I'll give you a super close-up of that. Check it out. So some filamentary activity rising, as well as some sunspots, some filamentary activity setting. Here's the current situation. There's sunspot 2743, and there's the remnants of 2742. We'll also have to look at the colored magnetogram. And it is a normal polarity sunspot, and it's very close to the equator. So this is the kind of sunspot you see at the end of a solar cycle. Nothing to really write home about there. Let's look at the solar wind, which is very weak. We are expecting a coronal hole wind stream to be hitting. And it looks like it's starting to ramp up here. Although, I don't know. Not too much going on. Very low. Low speed, low density there. 5.3 protons per cubic centimeter. Dense speed 353 kilometers a second. No dangerous earthquake associated phi angle there, although we did see one back here, and we just did see an earthquake kickoff on Kamchatka, the Kamchatka Peninsula, just about 40 minutes ago. Next, we'll look at magnetosphere movies. We'll look at density. So this is 4 hours of the University of Michigan geospace model. So you see some striations of density, which basically match what you see on the solar wind, the real-time solar wind tab that we just looked at. Nothing too extraordinary going on there. Here's the pressure, which is quite low because you have a combination of a considerably low speed and a considerably low density. So as you'd expect, you see a pretty low pressure. Now we are talking magnetohydrodynamic pressure in 4 hours of it, courtesy of, not cursing at, University of Michigan, but courtesy of University of Michigan. We'll curse at other people later for their tyranny, stupidity, ignorance, and general strangeness. I will try my best to not use profanity, to keep the videos kid-friendly. Here are the geospace magnetic perturbations here. The main ones are over the Canadian North Pole as opposed to the Siberian North Pole. And we don't see many perturbations, at least at the beginning of the movie, regarding the South Pole. Just keep in mind that it is creeping into the southern Indian Ocean. Check out smAsho.org. It's going to have some updated graphics on it soon. And for other ways to sponsor the channel, check out Patreon. We only have one tier. It's $1 because we're trying to gain volumes of viewers, not have expensive channels. So let's go over the mission, which is to assist, study, and report on the ongoing formation of unified theory of physics, to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space, weather, and Earth effects, to connect and consult with media organizations, demonstrate cutting-edge proof of concept solutions to problems, publish scientific papers, at least 3 of which are in the works. I can comment on one. It involves paprika. How do you like that? Anyway, it'll be multidisciplinary and not limited to these sciences. Also to assist mankind by the advancement of the study of things like predictive phenomena and to not be ossified in our beliefs. Also, if you're interested in CBD products, check us out on Hemp Lucid, the Spaced Out campaign. Links in the description to all of these sites. So please visit them as well as our cycling team. And thanks, potential sponsors. We are handling your requests. So anyway, check out theveloshop.net. If you're a prepper and you don't own a bike, you have an incomplete prepping setup, as the bicycle is the most efficient means ever devised to transport humans. It's more efficient than a horse. It's more efficient than a mule, or roller skates, or a skateboard, or a plane, or a motorcycle. You want the ultimate prepping bike? BMC Alpine Challenge is a pretty good choice. I'm not exactly sure what goes into all these things, as when you're dealing with race bikes constantly, it's pretty tough to deal with this stuff. You want a girly one? All right, check it out. How about the Versa Speed 40? Check it out. Disc brakes, $630 available in 54 and 56. Also, follow on Instagram. You may see things that you may not see on YouTube, although I tend to show the stuff. Check out this Fall Street cloud I saw yesterday. And yes, we are quite 1337 here. Check out the Fall Street cloud. It's epic. It's called a fall streak hole, folks. It's a spot where you see just an obvious round hole in a cirrus cloud, sometimes a stratocirrus cloud, I think, as it is in this case, or case, if you're able to speak the English language. Here's a better view. There's actually a low cloud in the foreground. Quite a freaky thing. Check it out. So anyway, if you don't follow me on Instagram, you may not see stuff like this. Freaky clouds, folks. There you go. If that doesn't look like a cosmic ray flux cloud, I don't know what does, folks. If you think that's a chemtrail or a contrail, I invite you to unsubscribe, like so many folks have from our channel. And for those of you who do contribute, every little bit counts. So thanks. Also, if you want some of the original music, it looks like Gem Cutter is all the way up to number 40 on the chart. Check it out. Anyway, you could download this for about $1.25. It's one of the latest tracks we've put up there. Links in the description of that, as well as to SoundCloud. Check out spaceweather.com. They got this great image of an asteroid exploding near Puerto Rico. Totally awesome. And it's clear, totally clear, that it is indeed an asteroid. Check it out. I don't know if I can zoom that in. Let me see if I can get it properly zoomed. Anyway, nice job, GhostlySentinel.com and Frankie Lucena. .7 centimeters. I will really endeavor to speak the English language today, folks. I promise. 10.7 centimeter radial flux is at 68. Still above forecasted values. And again, there are sunspots. I'm not sure the official number here. Let me close this tab and move on to solarham.net, as they have a nice region zoom in. There's the zoom in current situation on that. Sunspot 2743, pretty small. Likelihood of large X-ray flares is very low, especially with it already in a nearly setting mode. It formed quite a few degrees off of the Earth-facing portion, so it's already setting. And it's not particularly big. It's a very basic sunspot. SpaceWeatherNews.com indicating no significant change in X-ray flares there, as you'd expect. Magnetometer still looking a little spiky. We'll look at Gong 2 in a minute. Here's a KP index at 1, coming off of a 0 there. Electron flux still very low. Not quite as low as yesterday at this time, although we are broadcasting about an hour later. Excuse me. And the F2 layer, discharge on the nighttime side, a little discharge on the daytime side. So all the data looking corroborative, folks. Aurora forecasts, similar in nature, nothing too exciting. I would note, again, very low relativistic electron fluence, as well as the lower level electron flux seen here. So we also do look at the greater than 10 mega electron volt density, but I wouldn't really worry about it. Solar activity is still very low despite sunspots. And that's a cycle 24 sunspot right on the equator, something you would see at the end of the solar cycle. So that's a farewell cycle 24 sunspot type of a group. I didn't really watch the I didn't watch 2742 very well. I noticed that it formed yesterday afternoon, but anyway, there's the X-ray environment, and you can see where the remnant is from 2742, and there's 2743, which is still a sunspot. So the period of sunspot-free days has ended. Let's look at the Gong 2 here, as this video is going to get long in the tooth. Jeez. Anyway, you see the plasma still shifting around in this area, so anybody's guess is what happens with the GOES magnetometer. The data is 1 hour and 11 minutes old. We'll skip stereo A. Here's where your planets are. There's where they'll be in 1 week. New moon as you approach Saturn opposition or conjunction or whatever the hell it's called. And check out in-the-sky.org for your sky map. I like to draw the eclipse again. If you're feeling exciting, draw in the galactic plane too. And try to reconcile the fact that they're somehow proportional around summertime. Anyway, you've got, oh, check it out. We got the sun rising, Venus. You could probably see the sun and Venus at the same time. I mean, you can see the Venus. If your horizon isn't super low, you might be able to see Venus, but not the sun. That's my point. Also, the moon and Saturn just setting. As we broadcast super late, check us out on other social media like Twitter, twitter.com/SMAsho, facebook.com/SMAsho. Also, facebook.com/groups/entropy busters, which has got a photoshopped version of M31. That's the Andromeda Galaxy's core. I cannot advance tabs as Facebook has gotten intrusive. Has Facebook intruded with your Android software or your Apple software or your computer software? Leave a comment. Check us out on Gab also. I guess it's a Twitter alternative, and we're going to actually start using that. Check us out on Minds, minds.com/smAsho, where we're approaching 500,000 views. That's 500,000 if you aren't able to understand numbers. Check out the latest thumbnail from yesterday. Is that hot or what? And if you haven't subscribed on this thing, we've gained one whole subscriber since yesterday. So thanks, whoever that was. Refresh the earthquakes to make sure we're not missing anything. 6.3 off of Kamchatka is the most latest, the most recent type of late thing that most recently happened there at the place where the things are by the place thing. 4.8 at Indonesia, 4.5 at Mexico. We've seen an uptick there. At Puerto Madero, please leave a comment if you are a crypto trading billionaire who's moved to Puerto Madero and become a warlord. Here's a 4.7 in Indonesia, a 4.3 in Japan, which was probably shrugged off. How about a 5.9 at New Zealand as the quakes in that zone continue? That one looks pretty far north. Let me look at the map. We've been seeing quakes right on that rift. See that oceanic rift there? The large quakes have been right along that, including the 7.2 downgraded from a 7.4 or something like that. 7+ magnitude quake up there, and these are all following that. How about a 4.5 at Iceland on land? Shout out Nordic viewers. If you are a Viking and you're viewing this video, please leave a comment. And we know horned helmets aren't a thing. 4.8 at China. Thanks for reporting. 4.5 at Iceland. That one's slightly deeper, apparently, and occurring less than an hour after the first one. Is there volcanic activity going on? Leave a comment if you have any idea, as I don't. Here's a zoom in. If you saw a salt and pepper shaker fall off of a shelf next to your stove, please leave a comment. Trying not to lose my spot here, folks. 4.4 in Indonesia. Here's some deep quakes. 4.9 in Fiji. And then less than a half hour later, a 4.8 in Fiji. Oh, I'm sorry, in Indonesia, then Fiji. So only less than a half hour apart, two deep quakes, thousands of miles apart. And a 5.7 in Indonesia. 5.3 in Indonesia. Another deep quake at Fiji, 4.4, 516 kilometers. 5.6 at the South Sandwich Islands. 5.0 in Indonesia. 4.6 in Indonesia. Heads up, Fiji and Indonesia. Deep quakes going on. Watch out for lows. 5.8 at the South Indian Ridge. And lastly, this 6.3, which could be capable of producing tsunamis at Alaska. Probably not, but let's see. Came in at a 6.6 according to the Tsunami Warning Center. Downgraded to a 6.3. Oh, man. All right. So let's see. What about Alaska? Here's the Alaska one. apparently no tsunami danger. Cheers. For that, we thank you. All right, there's way too much stuff to get to here, so really got to seriously pick up the pace. I'm trying. Here's the pressure maps. We'll let that play for a minute. There is a low hovering over the Bering Sea and a low hovering north of the Great Lakes, which is screwing up my weather. And for that, we say, screw you, lows. I say, screw you, lows. And if you don't say screw you, lows, then whatever. Somewhat of a respite going on with most people's weather, though, so that's a good thing. At least Texas and Kansas and Nebraska and Missouri and Iowa aren't getting hammered as hard. I would give up a daily bike ride to have it dry out in your locations any day. Looks like there is some snow falling in Colorado, though, as well as could be some wintry mix going on in Montana and stuff. And we do see an obvious Sasquatch fart near the Oregon-California border. Better zoom in on that. Right there. All right, it must have dissipated. So maybe they were just gating out of our dimension, folks. We've seen Sasquatches and felt a feeling of peace and found a feather on the trail, which is a peace offering. Please leave a comment. I'm going to try to look at this low, which is up here south of Lake Superior, and which is ruining my weather utterly. Looks like it's actually on Lake Huron. Thanks a lot, Canada. We really needed to have that low there to ruin my bike rides again. 2 major bike rides destroyed in less than a week. Anyway, we're delighted that most people's weather isn't screwed up, and ours really isn't that bad. Let's talk about some... Oh, geez. Yeah, he can live stream now, folks. So here's Jesse Philibran's channel. Make sure you follow this. It's not a mess or nothing, and we never use sarcasm on our channel. Let's look at the most recent video and give him a shout out. Hey, shout out, Jesse. Let me pause the music here to hear part of his latest shout out video. The sky's the limit, man.
Time. So, yeah. If you want to be, shout out, comment below, and I will shout out you. So.
Okay, so yeah, you can leave a comment beneath Jesse's videos and ask him for a shout out. And ask him, like, where's the low over Canada going? Anyway. Also, check out lightningmaps.org. And if you've ever heard the old wives' tale that lightning doesn't strike the same place twice, don't believe it, because it regularly does at places like volcanic calderas. Not that we're looking at one here, but if you're located in, I'll bet there's people there. I don't see any cities. I see roads. Anyway, lightning rolling in Mexico. Shout out, leave a comment if you're viewing from Mexico, as we've got viewers from all around the world, folks. Around the world. View the Smash Team's videos. As we cannot be censored. It is impossible to censor. I'm just kidding. We can be utterly censored, and we are utterly censored. Let's look at volcano rundown here as quickly as possible, as there's still so much stuff to get to, and it's taken a while, such as Shivaluch, with volcanic ash not identifiable. I guess they think it's going off. Also, Rakoke, which has exploded out of the suddenness and without any warning is still producing a 38,000 foot ash plume very far north, very close to the stratosphere as it was when it first went off. Manam, back on the list, 12,000 foot plume there in New Guinea. Mount Ibu, 7,000 foot plume there, Dukono. So a volcanic uptick. We had a very clear list a couple days ago, and now there's a bunch of volcanoes going back off again. Dukono with a 7,000 foot plume. Popocatépetl's emissions have dissipated. Revenador, sporadic emissions of ash. Sabancaya, continuous emissions with explosive activity and a 24,000 foot ash plume there. Please don't pole vault over that. And another one on the list I've never seen before or heard of in my life, Ubinas in Peru, unable to detect, but on the list for some reason, must be some sort of activity there. Let's look at
2, 1, boom.
a super important
First
video.
of all,
If you're
cheers,
not familiar
everyone.
with the Joe Rogan Experience, you're probably not going to know what's being talked about around the water cooler. So I suggest you tune in, as this video's got 3.6 million views, and it's 5 days old. So this one with Bob Lazar and Jeremy Corbell is about things like anti-gravitic technology. I suggest you watch it. And if you're not aware of the implications to things like physics and cosmology, then we really got to do more physics lessons on this channel. In fact, we're going to do more physics lessons on this channel. Here's a clip.
I watched your documentary. We had this conversation, and I said, I have to talk to him.
YouTube, please don't ban us as we talk about stuff like the unified theory.
Yeah.
The document, there's been detractor.
Stabilize.
We're trying to get Lazar, a quote from Lazar here, not Joe Rogan, as this interview is about anti-gravitic technology, basically gravitational field generation through, well, I'm not going to get into through the generation of mass, but here's a random quote from Bob Lazar.
Isotopes and unstable isotopes. Like I think cesium has like 30 unstable isotopes to it. So, all right, well, hydrogen, for example, you're familiar with hydrogen gas. It's stable. It's not radioactive.
Anyway, Bob Lazar is a real science nerd, and if you know science nerds, you'll listen to Bob Lazar talk for about 5 seconds, and you will know that he's legit. And he does not want attention, but this story has been out there since 1988. Look at another YouTube channel called Sky Scholar, and I'm going to attempt to randomly pick a video here. He's got 15,000 subscribers now, so that's great. Dr. Pierre-Marie Robitaille, the originator of the liquid metallic hydrogen model of the sun. If you're not familiar with the Sky Scholar channel, please watch all of the videos. Let's go to, I guess this is his oldest one here, History of the Gaseous Sun. How about a quote about how the sun does not have a hydrogen reactor inside of it.
Something else.
The sun is not made out of plasma. The sun is made out of condensed matter. And the solar wind is generated through chemical reactions. Might sound crazy. It's just a lot of them going on. And please leave a comment if you understand any of this, as I've been studying this for a while now, and it's part of the theory of everything, in my opinion.
Then all our current mathematical models would become useless and difficult, or perhaps impossible to replace. In any case, how did we get to a gaseous sun? Let's start with William Herschel at the beginning of the 19th century.
Now he's going to tell a story that may blow your mind. I'm going to let it play for a moment as I've got some input.
Herschel believed that the sun was an inhabited solid object. He was a careful observer who made many important discoveries.
Herschel believed that there were folks living inside the corona, in between the dark spots, the dark part you see when you see a sunspot, and the bright spot you see when you don't see a sunspot. He thought that that was a little hole in their atmosphere, and there were little folks in there, perhaps playing tiddlywinks.
You can tell he loved the stars since he built more than 400 telescopes himself. He also had a vivid imagination. Herschel's sun was populated with strange beings, which he called Solarians.
Anyway, if you want
Hello,
to watch,
everyone, and
if you want to
welcome
watch
to
a video
Sky
about
Scholar.
that, that's a video about the real history of the sun, folks. So check out the Sky Scholar channel if you haven't, as we really appreciate when our viewers understand the distinction between their ass, no vulgarity here, pictured on the left, and a hole in the ground, some sort of gateway to hell somewhere. It's a real photo, folks. I did not Photoshop that. Let's look at some financial stuff here on cnbc.com/markets. As Bitcoin continues, it's run up over $11,000 per coin, up $344 right now. I would note there are some graphs you should not chase. Also, here's the Ethereum quote, not quite as out of control as Bitcoin. I believe Bitcoin is in overvalued territory now. Not that it was ever in valued territory. All right, and let's also look at commodities. I'll look at oil, which is still very low in price, anticipating a global slowdown. Get this red thing off of here. I don't care what Warren Buffett did. So small run up there in oil in the past couple of months. No big deal. Nobody worried about gas prices. And I tend to agree. I would also note the gold graph versus the silver graph. Gold up another $14. So it looks like folks are hiding from conventional investments such as currency, bonds, and stocks, indeed. Here's silver. So we see a similar setup here. Silver having just apparently reached a support level there at $15.41. It's gone up a few cents since I did show prep. And we're not going to look at other commodities here, as this video is getting too long. Let's create a sentence. Big tech has swung into a pattern of obvious
tyranny,
which is oppressive power, especially exerted by things like governments or giant corporations, which will remain unnamed, who are trying to ruin the
gritty,
nature of things like YouTube and the internet, which will never work since the internet can break those organizations, but those organizations can't break the internet. So don't be oppressive and harsh and act in an unjust and tyrannical way, as it will not work. You're big tech, you know who we're talking about. In a related story, Google using AI to meddle in 2020 election. Links in the description to this also, so visit our description links, as we have links to the articles for you to share with your pals about this undercover expose by Project Veritas, exposing how, just like in 2016, Google will be trying a little harder to interfere with the election. And here's a full explanation of how and why they do it. So check it out on Zero Hedge. Dear Google, the internet can break you, but you can't break it. Let's talk about Boeing, as you are screwed and sued, Boeing, and you deserve it. So shout out to Boeing. Well done. Well done. So what they did is they took their 737s, and the reason that we haven't had my Ask a Pilot section for the past month plus is because I'm letting this story sink in, as it's nowhere near being done. So I want to talk about the Boeing 737 MAX and why it's grounded. See, when you take an airframe, which has underwing engines especially, and you put more powerful engines there, more powerful and more efficient engines, your engines have a tendency to make the plane pitch up. And ultimately, the problem comes down to either Boeing, the airlines, or both not informing pilots that they have an imperfect system to correct this issue. So there are links to this article also. This is from Australian Broadcast Company, not ABC News as you would think of it, abc.net.au. So yeah, and this absolutely confirms with the information that I received from my anonymous pilot friend. Now, he's not the Pilot X mentioned in this article, but we applaud the Pilot X mentioned in this article because Boeing deserves to pay a lot of money because it's Boeing's fault. The problem is derived from an angle of attack sensor or a series of angle of attack sensors or lack thereof. What happens is, in order for this plane to try to pitch up, it has to know what the angle of attack is, which is the angle of pitch versus the horizontal plane. And so anyway, if this doesn't work out correctly and the pilots are not trained and the pilots do not understand that the plane is doing weird things to their flight control system against their will, essentially, they're not going to know. They're going to misestimate things like flight speed, and they're going to crash the plane, which is responsible for the deaths of at least 346 people, as well as a loss of probably billions of dollars of revenue. And it's pretty much Boeing's fault. Because in the light of the MAX's 2 fatal crashes, questions were raised about the software, the angle of attack sensors. Airbuses have 3 sensors, Boeing's have 2. And again, just read the article. The article states exactly what my pilot friend stated. So the originating plaintiff, known as Pilot X, who has chosen to remain anonymous for fear of reprisal from Boeing and discrimination from Boeing customers, lodged the statement of claim on Friday, which seeks damages for them and more than 400 colleagues who work for the same airline. So you're talking about billions of dollars are going to leave Boeing's hands as a result of these failures. And at the same time, airlines are going to go on the defensive and say Boeing didn't tell them either. Pilot X alleges that Boeing decided not to tell MAX pilots about the MCAS or to require MAX pilots undergo any MCAS training. In other words, if you don't know the software is doing it, it's not very safe to fly passengers around while the MCAS software is changing your angle of attack. Your artificial horizon is irrelevant if software sabotages your flight. So anyway, the point is, when you put larger engines under wing like this, when you throttle up, those larger engines have a tendency to cause the nose to pitch up. Software is designed to pitch the nose down, but without proper training, 346 people die. Is it Boeing's fault? You be the judge. Here's another great article, because we're going down the crazy hatch, as there's a lot of crazy articles. Check this out. I'm going to try not to use profanity. Stunned Anderson Cooper cuts CNN interview after Trump accuser calls rape sexy. I think CNN might be having some problems with vetting their guests, as I think this woman might be a little nuts. Let's play a clip.
Victim.
Assault is not.
I think most people think of rape as being sexy.
Okay, so links to that article also. Let's go a little closer to home. This is nothing big here, just a man in Pennsylvania who constructed a bomb to warn about aliens threatening to destroy the planet. Now, it was a very badly made bomb, so we don't want to defame this guy too much, although I don't think he's particularly smart. When questioned, Oxenrider told police that in 2014 he had an encounter with aliens who told him that if humans did not, quote, start being good people, end quote, they would destroy the planet with a nuclear laser beam. Nuclear one. So, anyway, I guess the device had to be manually detonated. And listen to how bad of a bomb this was. He told authorities he'd taped together 2 metal butane tanks and placed them in a green bag. The tanks were wrapped in cloth, filled with metal staples. A hatchet and phone charger were inside the bag as well, he said. he told the police the device had to be manually detonated, which I assume is with the hatchet. So I don't know if you're one of bin Laden's children or something who's familiar with bomb making techniques, but when you talk about a low level of sophistication, perhaps a hatchet, not the ultimate detonation technique. Well done, Mr. Oxenrider. And what a name! What a name! How about this Nebraska murder suspect who slashes his own throat in court? So he not only attempted to cut his own throat, he did cut his own throat. The idiot from Nebraska who's accused of killing a young woman that he met on Tinder, yet another reason not to use Tinder, attempted to cut his own throat in the middle of a murder trial. He yelled, "Bailey's innocent and I curse you all!" And then he fell out of a wheelchair. He received a few stitches and was released. Bailey Boswell. Could he be the genius of the day? Leave a comment. There's no way I'm getting through the comments as this video is way too long. I'll have to read them later. Anyway, thanks for leaving them. Let's go to an uplifting article. And we're going to ignore cosmic rays and we're going to ignore transients. Victory salute is hardwired into our genes. Now, have you ever seen anybody cross the finish line of a bike race and put their arms up? Or finish a running race and put their arms up? Well, it turns out that blind athletes use the very same gestures as their sighted peers. So is it possible that a victory salute is like a smile and should be a stretch that you do daily where you just hold your arms up in the air just for no reason, essentially? At the very least, you're going to gain circulation in your hands, which, if they're stiff usually, like mine are, from doing various chores and tasks, you'll benefit just because of that. So anyway, links to this article also in the description, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so it turns out that, yeah, when blind competitors win like a sporting event, now we're looking at the Paralympics and indeed the blind competing in the real Olympics, regular Olympics. And when they fail, they show slumping shoulders and so on. So they narrow their shoulders and chest after a defeat as if they're hiding. And those who win indulge in triumphant gestures. So there's some psychological indication here that this would actually be a healthy behavior to participate in, even when you don't do anything. In other words, if you've ever heard smiling makes you psychologically happier in a very true and measurable fashion, it's true. As I used to be a psychology major, and the placebo effect and so on are some pretty interesting phenomenon when you get down to it. Here's the sun in 304 angstroms. Thanks for tuning into this exceedingly long video if you made it all the way to the end. Sorry we couldn't get through the comments. I'll have to respond to those in text form later. Hopefully this thing will load all the way. Lots of concerns about crop losses and rising food prices, folks, and I agree. I agree. We've been warning of rising food prices since February when we saw the record snow. So that's a thing. Again, please don't forget to visit links in the description. Figure out ways to support the channel as we figure out ways to remain in existence. perhaps we do have time to get through the comments. Manuela, great question. Do I think it's strange there's an electron crash going on from June 4th? I don't think it's that strange. The Van Allen belts get weak at solar minimum, just like the plasma spheres. It all gets weak. The Van Allen belts shrink, the plasma spheres shrink in, proportionally. So I don't think it's too weird. Proton source is probably the sun, and if it's not the sun, it's things like Cygnus X3 and various other sources. Various other intra and intergalactic sources. Those are the only places they can come from, really, folks. You need a Z field in order to send a jet across the galaxy, right? All right, it's about that time. Geez, yeah, we do have to do more physics lessons. Cheers. I don't know about string theory. I think I'm going to leave that to Eugene Bagashov. Maybe I'll feature a video about string theory. I'll play a quote. Eugene just did a great one. Check out Eugene Bagashov's channels. That's Eugene Bagashov. Shout out Eugene if you're watching. Holla. Hit me up on Skype. And sorry, other Skype dudes, that it's taken me so long to get back to you. There's a lot of stuff going on. Anyway, thanks again for tuning in, folks. Remember, when you're staring at the sun, don't drink it. Just drink, stare at the sun anyway. Just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.